Welcome to Conversations for Action. I'm Regina Washington, Director of Rural Impact Networks at Partners for Education. And today for the August Rural Library Network Conversations for Action webinar, I am joined by Theresa Davis, one of Atlanta's best known performance poets. She's an educator, she is an author, she is an impressive career. She has an impressive career as an artist, winning poetry slams and being featured at spoken word venues around Atlanta and the nation, connecting her work in urban and rural communities, as well as leading writing and performance workshops, and also headlining conferences across the Southeast. The conversation today will focus on using art to engage youth and the community around culture and academic achievements. Come on in, come on in. Even drop your name in the chat, as well as where you might be from, and maybe one particular artist that you've invited at the library, or one of your favorite artists. Go ahead and share some information about yourself. Please allow me to go off script for just a second. I'm so excited to have Theresa here with us. And I want to share that one of my favorite author poets that inspired me growing up, especially in my college years, is Maya Angelou, right? And one of her quotes has always stayed with me as I saw her actually in Eastern Kentucky University when she came to Kentucky. She said, "We are all creative. But by the time we are 3 or 4 years old, someone has knocked the creativity out of us." And I just wanted to say that creativity and arts are ways of learning, a way of expressing oneself, a way of inspiring change, inspiring action, inspiring engagement. And whether it's on a stage, whether it's in a cafe, whether it's at home, or even in a gallery, right? Or on the street, and definitely whether or not it's in the library, creating art is a skill, and engaging youth in art can happen anywhere. So with that, I want to welcome Theresa in this space. Theresa, good to see you. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you decided to become an artist? Share a little bit about your path to this point and what you're doing now.
I am Theresa Davis. I am the mother of 3 amazing humans, and I actually did not want to be an artist. I tried really, 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 really hard not to be an artist. My mother and my stepfather were both creatives. They were poets and musicians, and when you grow up in a family of creatives and who are also activists, you are the child that gets told that you're going to recite a poem at this rally or at this gathering or at this thing. And so a lot of poetry that was hefted upon me, I'll say it like that, was like, it almost felt like a punishment, like you're punishing me. That you're the poet, not me, that kind of thing. But growing up, my family has always, inspired our creativity or encouraged it. Like every family gathering, there was a talent show at some point. And you knew going in there was going to be a talent show, and you had to show some talent, right? So we were always expressing ourselves and given the opportunity to express ourselves. So, like when you said that quote about creativity being, stomped out of you, I've actually witnessed some of that happen, which is why I'm so grateful that I have the opportunity to go into classrooms and inspire young people to write. And I'm real careful when I go into spaces where I don't let the teachers or anybody in the room tell me who a kid is. I want a kid to tell me who they are. I am very much, I'm going to meet you where you are. I'm not going to try to drag you to where I think you need to be. Because I think that's one of the things that as educators, sometimes we forget because you're in this classroom, but all these kids come from all these different places. So we don't know what holes they may or may not have. We don't know, we don't know everything about them. So, why not meet them where they are? And get rid of the judgment, get rid of the other shaming kind of things that can come into play in a classroom. So, one of my joys is actually being able to go into a classroom, share what I love, hopefully convert some young folks into poetry, and then I can go to the next spot and continue to do that kind of art. I was a classroom teacher for 30 years. I was in a very, very small private school. So I taught all subjects, and my class maxed at 14, which was a blessing. I'm learning now when I go into some of these classrooms and they're like 35 kids in there and one teacher, and I'm like, whoa. So having 14 kids, you learn a lot more about people than you want to know. But it also fosters a deeper sense of community. And it creates this kind of like family nuance, and part of what I do when I go into classrooms is I try to create that. So like if a teacher is brave enough to have me in their classroom for 10 sessions, we're gonna create some of those bonding moments where these young people are going to acknowledge that their words have power, that their stories are important, and that it's okay to share, because more often than not, our stories bump up against each other and we don't know because we don't share them, and as we are in this time now where it's so uncertain, all these things have happened. 2020 was a whole thing, right? We lost so many stories, like so many stories just gone. And so like my goal and my mission for the work that I'm doing coming up is just like encouraging these young people to have conversations with your uncles, your aunts, have conversations with your grandparents. It's always amazing to me. Sometimes like I've known my mom my whole life, but every once in a while she'll say, I remember this time. And it's like this story that is like, it's like, you used to race stock car. Wait, what's happening right now? But it's like, it's those little things that we don't know because we don't know to ask. So have those conversations. Collect those stories, because that's how you create legacy. That's how you create a living history, is being able to share those stories and pass those stories down. And poetry is a form of storytelling, where you can get super fancy creative about it, and kind of cover up the names of the not so maybe innocent, but you can tell your story in a way that is appealing and uplifting to yourself. So this is what I do. I come in and I teach poetry. And right now, I run the longest running open mic in Atlanta right now, Java Speaks. And we just celebrated our 20th anniversary in June. 20 years every Sunday of having a space where people can come and share their poetry, share their storytelling, share their songs. We've had people just, come up on the stage and just like scream for a minute, because that's their story today, and it's just a place to share and to be able to hear those stories, connect with other people that you didn't know you were going to connect with. And, so hopefully I've answered some of your questions.
Oh, yes. Thank you so much. I mean, just to share a little bit about yourself and recognize, I'm from West Virginia, West by God, Virginia. And, I do remember that we too, in our community, we really appreciate and lift up expressions of art, whether it be graphic art or dance or song or storytelling, and that could be a very poetic expression of just what we've come through. And you mentioned quite a few things, about connecting, right? And so in coming through these troublesome times, even in the last year or so, libraries definitely have an opportunity to really reconnect connect the community, right, through art, and really allow the youth to come together and express some of the things that they've experienced, especially during the last year and a half or so, right? And that is a part of healing. That is a part of definitely not only using skill, but to feel a sense of connection as they're going through this experience. And definitely, you know, our space here today is Rural Library. And so what is your, you know, what has been your relationship with libraries as a young person?
Oh my goodness. Because I guess the artsy nerdy kid. I loved words from early on. You know, when you're that kid that kind of stands out, you know, lunchtime in the library becomes a thing, you know. So a lot of my middle school, especially, I spent a lot of time in the library just because, we all know that bully culture and bullying is a thing that has been a thing for a really long time. And sometimes the avoidance of that was hiding in the library, but then that also gets you called nerdy girl or bookworm or whatever, but whatever. You can't, oh, you're insulting my intelligence. Awesome. But being rounded enough to understand that and not like let it provoke you in a way. But we didn't have a library in my community other than school. So when school was off, we had the glorious bookmobile. And I remember, being young and being like, man, when I grow up, I'm gonna have a bookmobile. I'm gonna live in a bookmobile. That's where I'm gonna do my house in a bookmobile. And, because, I loved it. And the person in our community, and this was in St. Louis, who would come every Saturday with the bookmobile, would just like come out, set down a blanket, we do storytelling, or some weird trivia. And it was just one of those things where it's like you had the bookmobile come, you have this great experience, and then look, it's the ice cream man. Now it's perfect, right? So I've always loved libraries. And as an educator, I collect stories. At one point I had the most comprehensive international multicultural library. I had 42 versions of the Cinderella story. I had from all cultures and everywhere around the world, right? And so in the small private school that I taught at, other teachers would come and check out books from me so that they can use in their classroom. So in a way, I became a bookmobile, kinda. And then when I left the classroom with all these thousands of books that I own, I actually created a space here at the Arts Exchanges, which is where I'm the literary director. And now we have a library named after my stepfather that's basically housed with my entire educational library, be it from picture books to chapter books to reference books to textbooks. It's like it's a whole vibe down there, and it's all literary. So it's so funny. Like when I was younger, of course I wanted to be a translator. I wanted to be a linguist, right? And now I think that what I really wanted to do is be a storyteller and have a place where stories can be held and stories can be borrowed and stories can be shared. And I think I've done that. It's so weird, like this weird roundabout way. I did all the things that I wanted to do. I am a bookmobile and I am all the things.
I love it. I love it. Definitely bookmobiles are definitely important, especially in the rural areas. And I know some of our, attendees today can definitely relate to that. My next question to you is, from your perspective, why is it important for rural libraries to connect with regional artists? And what suggestions do you have for librarians who want to increase art opportunities in their community?
Well, I think that especially now when you have, everything's changing and all of these nuances and the idea of artists is not as, not that you don't want to be an artist. They don't, it's more celebrated. And I think when you bring in an artist, like I've been brought into libraries and just kind of had circle time, talk to young people, and basically I am the book. They get to check me out. They get to ask me any questions they want to ask. And before 2021, I had dreadlocks that went all the way down to my calves. So I would, and I used to have charms because I would collect charms from everywhere I went. And you could point to a charm and ask me about that, and it had a story. And so I would get I had a lot of very interesting, kind of strange sometimes, interviews with young people. And I think that when you bring artists into the libraries and you connect them with young people, that it destigmatizes the inner artist in them. You know how you said earlier about how by the age of 3, somebody has stomped the artist out of you? Well, a lot of that stomping also happens in, when you're matriculating through school. You want those kids to understand that, yes, I know you draw all these awesome pictures, and here's what you can do with these. These pictures have a story. Add the story to it. Be an artist and, create. So I think that it's really important that young people have that opportunity to talk to artists, to create with artists. I did a project a couple of years ago with the library in East Point, where it was just like, we're gonna tear up some magazines and create these collages, right? And then try to find a found poem within. So within the pages that we've used to create this collage. And a lot of these kids they didn't realize that they were doing multiple types of art at the same time. And I think that when people think of artists, they think of a person that does one thing, right? Like you paint or you draw or you do this. And I'm an artist that I'm very artsy craftsy. I actually am very much into miniatures right now. That's one of the things that I had to, like, when 2020 happened, and man, like it rocked me. I mean, I literally lost $20,000 worth of income on March last month. It's like, just like that. It was just like all the schools are closed. I'm like, but I work in the schools. So I really had to, like, everything just seemed so big that I had to, like, make my brain go small. So I got back into my miniature work just so I could focus a little tighter on what I wanted to do and what I needed to do and how I was going to turn this around and make this something that I could live, with and survive and feed children. But I think that, so I do arts and crafts, I do poetry, I paint a little bit, I do a lot of different things, and all those things are art. And I think it's up to us as people who love words, who love stories, to explain how all those things can go together. Right? How we can be artists and create multiple kinds of art, and contribute and be out there in the world and sharing that. And I think that young people who foster a love for art early have something that they can rest in later. Like they can journal, they can write their poetry, they can do their thing and just get that feeling and those emotions out.
Yeah. Oh, yes, definitely. Thank you so much. I'm glad you mentioned that an expression of art is not just one dimensional. A talent comes in many facets, right? And to really allow space to grow that talent and the confidence to step into that ability is amazing to do that, right? And, as I'm thinking here too, thinking about how you focused your art on poetry slams. And I really enjoy traveling, right? And a couple things that I do in the areas that I do travel in, I visit the libraries because I know this is a huge hub for culture, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But I love if there's a live poetry slam, I really want to go to one. It is just amazing, the talent and how the stories really express the culture that you're in at that moment. Tell us a little bit about why did you focus in on these poetry slams, and how does that contribute to the development of certain thinking and motivational skills, and even for youth, right? Translate that into how that might help youth in their development.
Well, I mean, I was drawn to poetry slam for a couple of reasons. I think I'm a healthy competitor. I think there's some people who are not, but I think I'm a healthy competitor. And the idea of telling a story and connecting with 5 strangers in 3 minutes was just intriguing to me. To be able to tell that story in a way to where, whether they are Black or white or queer or straight or religious or non-religious, that one story that can connect beyond all of that, right? And part of why I was successful at Slam was because I was able to do that. And to invoke humor, to also seriousness, to make sure you knew how to take that whole 3 minutes and create this entire story where they feel all the emotions, right? And one of my challenges for myself always was, if I could make the audience make the same sound at the same time, I knew I won that round, right? So be it a tender moment where the whole audience goes, "Oh," I won that round, because everybody in that room connected in that one moment, even if they don't know each other. And so that, to me, that's the magic of slam poetry, that you got that 3 minutes to just get in there, tell the story and connect. And I've had some very strange connections. I did a poem in Boston at the beginning of a poetry slam, and it connected with a woman so strongly that she could not get past it. And I was at the top of the show for 2 hours. And her husband tracked me down and was like, "You need to talk to my wife." And it was just like, whoa, okay, that happened. When I lost my stepfather, it was a struggle for me to get the words out, to figure out what I needed to say about that. And I finally did. And this is a wild story. So I finally found that poem, and I was like, yes, I'm going to go to the Women of the World Poetry Slam, right? Finally got my poem from my dad, and I'm going to leave it with all these powerful women, and I'm going to share it in this space where I know I'm accepted, and I'm going to do this. So I register for the Women of the World Poetry Slam Championship in Columbus, Ohio. I get to the competition, and I'm at the host hotel registering. And as I'm walking up to the table, all these faces that I know and love are looking at me very confused. And I was like, "What's happening?" And they were like, "Well, you're not registered." And I was like, and it was the first time I let someone else make arrangements for me. I was not registered. I was on a wait list. So I went to my hotel room, and I had a little bit of a fit, and then I went to a workshop. And while I'm in the workshop, I get a phone call that says one of the poets, her flight was rerouted because of snowstorm. This is March. Her flight was rerouted. Did I want the spot? Right. So I said, yes, of course. And that's the year I went on and I won the whole thing. And the very last poem that I left at the Women of the World Poetry Slam in 2011 was the poem that I'd finally written for my father. And then I was the champion. I got a trophy and a really nice check. I just felt like I felt like that was the universe saying, you are doing what you are supposed to be doing. Keep doing that, right? And so when I work with young people, that idea that your story is your story and there's no right or wrong answer, and kids need to hear that, because, even if they're trying to be creative in a school setting, they're waiting for someone to whip out a red pen or something and tell them something's wrong. So I immediately give them, this is your truth. I can't correct it. I don't know. I'm trying to learn. So you tell me about you. And then to give them suggestions on how, tell me about walking your dog, but make it the most explosive story ever, wild, you have all the creativity, you can do whatever you want to do. And so we start off with that way of kind of play, especially when they're younger. And then when I work with the older kids, it's like, I know you're angry. I know you're frustrated. I know you've got these things to say. This is a safe space. Whatever you say, you have this book. If you want me to read it and you want my feedback, leave the page open. If you don't want me to read it, fold it over. I will not go there if you don't want me to go there. Because I think that is also important for young people to know, that they have a sense of control over what they are willing to share. I think that 2020 also kind of opened that whole thing of like, people don't owe you their stories. They can share their stories. They don't owe you that, and just giving them that autonomy to be able to share their stories, to create their story the way they want to correct it. Like I tell them all the time, what you're giving is a gift. So you decide what that gift looks like. You decide what kind of wrapping paper you're going to put on it. You decide if it's going to have a bow or just a sticker. You decide. And then if you want us to open that gift, then you decide you share. And you don't have to share. But how do you know you've connected with somebody else if you don't? And this is why I share. But I think it's really important for young people to feel that autonomy, that control, that agency to their own work. And also that they have the power to share or not to share, and to make the decision on what is going to impact them in the most healthy way possible. I always tell young writers, don't go too deep if you can't swim. Like sometimes when I write a poem, I think I'm going this way, and then my brain says, oh no, this is what we actually feel, heart. And it goes into another, and you're sobbing and you're like, whoa, so and it's okay to write those things, but you may not want to share those things. Like, I don't believe in like ripping a scab open all the time just so that people react. I believe in taking self-care. And I think that is a word that our whole society is learning, that self-care is a thing. I have to take care of myself in order to help and take care of others, right? So yeah.
No, thank you. That I can feel the passion, of course, and that's why you do what you do, right? And it's amazing because you spoke, and not only spoke about the authentic self of youth being able to be expressed through their art and expression through their word, but given that space to have that, for them to be able to do that. And it's amazing how we know over the years that, even though research doesn't really show, it's very limited, it doesn't really show a strong connection between, the arts and academic achievement or those kind of things, but we know that happens, right? And we now seeing various researchers go into that space and show that there is a link. And this is a role where libraries come in and really, again, serve as the hub of expression for art, right? Expression of the community culture, right? And as we know, libraries serve as cultural hubs in communities and as a safe and trusted space to learn, create, share, and access cultural materials and resources, as you've named already. So if you can share just a little bit about your own poetry, and maybe even tell us your thoughts a little bit about what the role art plays in culture, right? And then I want you to just take us in to some of the work that you've actually been able to create yourself. Okay.
I think that everybody, I think we think about art on this whole like different level. Like, I mean, I know so many of us have that favorite song that we listen to when we're cleaning up because it just makes the cleaning go faster, right? You're listening to art. And you've got that, favorite book or story or that was turned into a movie or whatever. It's all art, right? I think that if it hadn't been for Schoolhouse Rock, elementary school might have been a whole different thing for me. But we listen to those songs and that music every Saturday morning. And so, yeah, I know why you're just a bill, why you're only a bill, and these, you know what I mean? Like, these are the things that kind of like help us get focused. Art has always been there. Even if it's been like kind of sneaky hidden in there, it's always been there. And what I do, with young people is to get them to access that art in a different way. I think the idea of, taking song lyrics, like when I did a workshop, actually, my last workshop that I did with young people in February, they were working on virtually, which is a whole different weird thing. They were working on, and there were a lot of resistance as a middle schooler, a lot of resistance. And they were working on songs. And so I said, well, all songs are poetry. They have a form. So we talked about quatrains, triplets, couplets, and they're like, because middle schoolers. But then I was like, okay, so here's my challenge to you. I don't usually give homework, but I'm going to give you some homework. I want you to go through your favorite songs that are appropriate for sharing with other people. And I want you to find me a triplet, a couplet, a quatrain, and a quintet. Find me your song lyrics, give the artist credit, and we're going to get back to it. When I tell you, when they got back and they realized the connection between language arts and music and that art together, it was like one of the best classes. I couldn't get them to stop. They like from Kendrick Lamar to Britney Spears. They were pulling out all the songs, separating the couplets, and it was just so exciting for them. And a couple of them afterwards were like, you know what? I'm never going to be able to sing a song lyric now without thinking about that. And I'm like, and that's how you make connections between art and education, and you put it together. And you will think about it all the time. You will share it with your young people when you have your own, right? So I think it's very important. I am going to share a couple of pieces with you all, if that's okay. Is that where I could do this in this part?
Oh, absolutely. Please engage us and honor us. Definitely, Theresa. Thank you.
And I want us to think about connections and any way that you connect with any of these poems that I'm sharing with you, because like some of us don't know each other. We're just meeting right now for the first time, but I'm firm in my belief that our stories all touch each other, regardless of our background, regardless of where we come from, whether we're in the city or we're in suburbs or we're in rural areas. We all have those stories that bounce on each other, right? So this is a poem that I wrote for my mother. And again, remember, I love words. So this poem is called tonsorial. And tonsorial is a word that deals with hair or doing hair, right? Tonsorial. When you are a single mother with 3 boys who have hair, they refuse to comb, and school starts soon. There are stores that sell clippers, so you buy a pair. The barber shop is too expensive. 3 visits will pay for 1 pair of clippers. Then there is more money for the clothes they are outgrowing, for the shoes they are always needing to be replaced, for meals missing midday in summer. This practical single mother knows she has no skills at cutting hair, but how hard can it be? She has seen hair cut. Her sons are not eager to be experimental performance art. No one wants to go first, but the youngest loses the fight because he sits, not as calm as he pretends. There is a soft buzz, an ouch, a retort of, dang, your ears are big. A little blood, then oops. The older brother slaps his hand across his lip to stuff back the swear word that will get his behind spanked. The sisters on the stairs laugh. The young brother advances on the mirror, mouth stretched in a scream that will not come. A tear falls. The mother is upset. She didn't do it on purpose. She apologizes to the crying boy who now has to have it all cut off. A trim turns scalping. The older brother declares he wants to grow the biggest afro in the world ever. The middle son takes to grooming like it's his newfound religion, while the younger develops an interest in hats. the clippers, find a new home in a drawer, away from shaking hands, its job done until school begins again. That's tonsorial.
Amazing. And as I listened, I can just imagine myself being in the barbershop. And, true enough, the struggle, even sometimes the cost of getting your hair cut or keeping it maintained is definitely something we don't even think about, but it's definitely somebody's struggle. But lovely, well put together. And as I was telling you a little earlier, that I thought about, my passions in public health, and I tried my hand in just the word public health, and could I create something? And and that's what we can engage our youth around, right? Just something that they're passionate about, and what resonates to them, right? And I'm looking over in the chat area too, and Wendy actually has shared, I believe she shared a little bit about how you can get in contact with various speakers or artist rosters through our humanities site, in terms of KentuckyHumanities.org. We also have someone else here that has dropped quite a bit of web links here. Bobby Norfolk, award-winning storyteller, has a Bring History Alive program series. That's in the chat as well. So there's a lot of different resources there that rural libraries can embark upon and start their own art program if they haven't already started their own art program and their own inventory or their own artist list, so to speak. Our libraries in rural areas have great opportunities to express culture and the arts. What specific types of strategies maybe that you could, or insight, could you share with our audience today to keep in mind when selecting an artist?
I think you really have to pay attention to what is your focus and who is your audience. So if it's geared towards middle school or high schoolers, what is it that you want the outcome to be for this thing, right? I once had to do, like, as an artist, I think sometimes we're able to float on our feet a lot faster than we think we are. And I remember being asked to come and do this program with this group, and I knew the person was asking me to do it, so I was like, "Oh, okay, I'll do it." But I didn't ask any other questions. I was just like, "Oh, sure, no worries. Whatever I need to do, I can come do it." And I came and I'm prepared to do a writing workshop, but these are all kindergartners, and most of them can't write. They don't have it, right? And so I had to think on my feet, and I invented the picture poetry slam, where they had to draw me a series of pictures, and then they had to perform the pictures with the words, right? And it turned out so good, but I was literally flying by the seat of my pants. So sometimes you get an artist who is able to adapt to whatever. So yes, when you vet, ask, how are you working with seniors? How are you working with high school kids or preschoolers or kindergartners? Because there are levels to this, and the worst thing you want to happen is have an experience that was supposed to be creative and artistic ruin a person from you don't want a kindergartner stomping off saying, "I'm never going to do poetry again," or "I'm never going," you want them to engage and so you want somebody who is engaging to be a part of that. Yeah.
Excellent. I'm still looking at the chats here. We have someone even from Alaska that has chimed in and has definitely hosted at their library in Talkeetna, I don't know if I've said it right, so sorry, Jerry, but has hosted local and state authors at their libraries. That's wonderful. And I'm also looking here too. There's some more information in the chat. Definitely view that. At this point in time, I want you all to gear up for some questions for Theresa, and you can drop them in the Q&A. And we'll definitely look at that as we are having this conversation with Theresa. So we'll get to those questions as well. Theresa, are there any other examples that you can share that impact your work with students?
Well, yeah. Just about being able to use poetry in conjunction with current events. That's because I think because we live in a time where social media and instant reaction to things are so common that spoken word and slam poetry is that kind of back and forth, quick, passing of words. When it's not like a rap battle exactly, but even rap battles are poetry and they're in the moment, right? So I think that a lot of our young people are attracted to that instant engaging, and being able to get those words out and share in a way that for some now is very lucrative. There's a teenager who has a poetry series that he does on TikTok, and he's actually created like a little mini career for himself, or a side hustle, as we like to call it. But like there's so many ways for young people to engage, and like there's so many programs now that offer scholarships now for poetry, or that offer opportunities to be youth poet laureates, and all these other programs that are out there for young people. And I think that it's really important for us to engage them in ways that they see the success in it, and become successful doing it. Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And I'm thinking in the times that we are in now, and art really, an expression of art and talent kind of brings people together, right? And I'm thinking that even in these times of COVID, sometimes we're thinking, can we still engage in that experience, even virtually, and being able to really see that happen. And I'm thinking how when I see TikTok, people are actually doing quick expression of art in dance, maybe the spoken word, these little small videos that youth are actually creating. It's amazing, isn't it? And it's virtual, all happening across the media.
Yeah.
And so those are opportunities, not only in person, but also having a arts and humanities program that involve creating a short TikTok, right?
Yeah.
That youth can get sort of excited about. I know I have a 4-year-old niece. She's creating them now, and it's just an amazing thing.
No, I mean, we had a couple of groups, because even in the pandemic, when we were still doing workshops and still trying to create spaces for young people to be expressive. We did a workshop that was part virtual, part in person, but very social distance. And what we made a movie. And basically, these young people, they can work a phone better than some pros can work actual cameras. And so they literally made a movie with their phones, and out in the big parking lot where they could just do whatever they want. And then I think one location, we took them to the park and just let them film whatever they wanted. Because we had like a little narrative that we created, and I think that one of the things was this was not the apocalypse I imagined. This was in 2020. But it came out to be this like really short and sweet project, and they filmed that. So I think that even if we're not in these opportunities to actually, be inside of a building, that there's so many great parks and so many outdoor spaces where young people can visually create a dialogue. So they create the visual and then put the words on top of it. And it's just a beautiful, beautiful way to create and also acknowledge that the skills that they have with the technology that they have available to them. And I'm aware that everybody doesn't have accessibility to that technology, but if there are spaces and ways where that can happen in partnerships with library. I know the library down the street from us has like little tablets that can be checked out for short periods of time, right? And, maybe that's a thing. I have no idea. But virtually, here's what I do think that came out of 2020. And that's something that, I think we all can agree with, is like the accessibility question has been answered, right? So my open mic that's been happening for 20 years went virtual at the end of the beginning of 2020, right? And I used to be able to say we were international because on every Sunday night during the Decatur Book Festival or any big festival that happened, people from all over the world would come through and we could say we were international. But now, like, I have people who frequent my mic from London and India, and there's a soldier in Japan who joins the open mic that's happening here at 8 p.m. and it's breakfast time for her where she is. So when I say international, I can say that I have people who have mobility issues who have not been able to leave their homes for years on a regular basis to participate in any art. And they are now actually able to come to an open mic, on a Sunday via Zoom or whatever we're doing. We have put our art gallery in a place where they can see it online. So I can go to the art gallery and see all the art pieces and so accessibility, that's what this means. So now we got to work to get this infrastructure together. So accessibility means everywhere,
I hear you. Yeah, definitely. And, open mic definitely is definitely key. It's just a very simple way of engaging people to share and creating that space to do that. So Wendy Johnston actually has posted another in the chat about during her programming years, she started a series of author talks and music performances and open mics, and library programming can definitely be more than crafts and books, book discussion groups, but can also combine performing arts. So true, Wendy. Wendy is actually on our Rural Library Network team and as the program manager. So definitely reach out to Wendy she has just a lot of ideas and great information. And as we are coming to the top of the hour, Theresa, I want to thank you so much for just being here with us on this Conversations for Action. This is a space where we engage rural librarians, practitioners in the rural areas that work with the libraries, to have conversation, to provide listeners with information, resources, and just inspire different individuals to move from, just intention to action in their own rural libraries. And you presented an opportunity here just to engage artists who are very skillful in storytelling, very skillful in the word in terms of putting word together in a very artistic way. As we wrap up, I'd like to ask you, Theresa, what are you most excited about in the coming months?
I actually, as a literary director at the Arts Exchange here, I actually do some an author panel every month. And a good friend of mine who actually, I believe is a Berea alum, who's back from Amsterdam. I mean, out of Cairo. her book Holding Space. So I'm really excited about, I have an author panel with her at the end of the month. I'm really excited about that. I've been, reading her book, and you ever read a book and some of your story is coming through so strong, you have to be like, okay. You have to readjust yourself. So I'm excited about that. I also, I have done something either ridiculously brave or ridiculously foolish. I have not slammed officially on my feet in almost 3 years. And I agreed to do a slam because a good friend asked me, but he didn't tell me who else was in the slam. So this slam is packed with champions who have won multiple titles. And it is going to be huge. It's a $10,000 slam. So now I got to practice again. I got to get back into my slam shoes. So I'm excited about that because I think I needed something to motivate me. And I'm one of the older slammers in our community. So I took a lot of joy in beating 20 somethings in slams, being like, I'm considered like the older mama person. So it's going to be really interesting to get ready for this particular slam, but I'm excited. And my kids are like, we're going to coach you, Mom. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to need it. So yeah, wish me all the luck because I don't want to be taken out by the 30 somethings. They're 30 now. I used to beat them when they were 20. Now they're 30. They may be different.
Oh my goodness, $10,000. Wow,
Yeah.
The poetry slam is going to be major. You have to share that with us so that maybe we could, if it's going to be shared on sort of live, live stream or what have you, that would be awesome to watch you. Definitely. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you so much for being a friend of our Rural Library Network. Just like Aminata Cairo, definitely, we're just so proud of her and her work as well. So thank you for sharing that. I'm actually going to pivot here a little bit and share a little bit more information of what to expect. But you spoke about, it's important that this is a career, right? And so libraries, need funding sometimes to be able to bring in the artists in their place, right? To support them in their career. And I'd like to be able to, and again, Theresa, thank you. If you have a moment, we're going to go into some announcements. And then we're going to wrap up here. So Sam, can you share the slide here for me? Want to be able to share some of the information here with regards to funding. You see here, and then let me get my slide here. You see that the first one here, you see National Endowment of the Arts. This is actually an opportunity here. It actually is the only art funder in America, I believe. And it provides funding for all 50 states, including the District of Columbia and the territories of the United States. And so they provide thousands of dollars to help support art programming, art participation. And you see the website here on the slide. The next one I have here is South Arts. It supports artists and organizations, again, in art programming. It also provides, fellowships and guidance on those programs as well. So wanted to provide you a couple or a few examples of funders here. The last one there is called the Steele Reese Foundation. It's a charitable trust committed to supporting rural communities and the tax-exempt entities that serve in certain areas. Now, this one has limited their funding support to certain rural areas such as Idaho, Montana, and in the Native nations that would fall under those categories, as well as Appalachian Kentucky. So these are just three that you can keep in mind if you are wanting to support your your arts and humanities program in your library. These are just a few examples. Next slide, please. I want to also announce and give great congratulations to those finalists who received scholarships. So we're excited to announce the winners of our Association of Rural and Small Library Conference scholarships. If you look on the screen here, that you'll see a list of those that were awarded. We look forward to supporting your continued learning and professional growth through this conference attendance, and we'll be reaching out to all recipients listed here on the screen to proceed with registration and travel support. And congrats again. Thank you to all that actually applied. And we look forward to even more special learning opportunities for the Rural Library Network members throughout the year. Again, if you have not taken a moment to become a member, please sign up. Next slide will show what is to come in next month's Conversations for Action. We'll discuss social emotional learning and how it can be incorporated into the activities and events we do with children and families. We will be joined by librarians who have used social and emotional learning concepts in their work with students, and how they have also brought in the use of libraries to help students address some of the trauma that they have experienced. Please plan to attend. Please join us. And with that, thank you, Sam, for sharing. I'd like to, again, thank Theresa for all of her information, the things that she shared, her very, very engaging poem as well. Theresa, any parting words, last parting words to send off those that are here with us today?
Thank you all so much for listening. Stay creative. Bring me to your communities. I want to teach your children. But thank you so much for having me. And, you know, I'm appreciative of librarians. And you would be surprised how many librarians are also slam poets. But I see librarians and teachers. It's very interesting. But I am appreciative of librarians and all the work you do. And thank you all so much. And thank you for having me. Excellent.
I'd like to thank all those who carved out some time to join us today in our Conversations for Action webinar. Continue to do great work and make a difference in the community, in the lives of our students, and in the families. Thank you so much, and see us next month. Thank you. Take care.